Hey everybody, in this video today we're going to talk about how to choose a paddle racket with 2 simple steps. I'm Timo from Padel FYI, where we help you choose the right gear for your game. And there's never been a more complicated time to choose a paddle racket. There's over 100 manufacturers, each with like up to 50 different rackets. We recently scraped one of the biggest retailers of paddle rackets, and they have over 1,400 different rackets on sale. So that's what we're gonna get into today. We're gonna show you how to check what kind of racket it is that you like playing with, and stay tuned because we have a racket giveaway. So what people generally say is that round rackets are for beginners and control-oriented players, diamond rackets for power-oriented players, and teardrops are some sort of general catch-all for all of us sitting in the middle or undecided. And that doesn't really make up for it because there's a lot of blurry things in between that don't fit into that simple of a framework. So I'm going to push us to understand the physics of paddle rackets just a little bit more so we can make a better informed decision next time we're buying our own. If only I had a couple of rackets lying around so I could make some measurements that would help us understand the performance of a paddle racket. But, oh, these DHL guys always come, they're always coming. Looks like we got a package actually from Stiga, super cool. Let's look what we got in here. Oh my goodness. Is it the wood edition in the birch print? Ooh, this is yummy. This is a racket you should use if you drive like a 1970s Cadillac. You know what I'm saying? Walking with a cane and some you know the style. You know my style. You know my style. And I'm super excited to talk to you guys today about the new release of the Axe. This is like Stiga's best-selling model. They made a few performance enhancements. They increased the balance. They made it a bit harder. They decreased the weight by about 5 grams. So today we're gonna use these to understand how these different measurements of rackets fit into how they can help us choose a paddle racket before we get onto the court. And then we're gonna take them onto the court and compare predictions with the measurements and see maybe we're totally off. Who knows? You know, like, let's see how it goes, guys. Stay tuned. So the first thing I do when I get a racket is measure it, right? Most of us looking for a racket weighing around 365 grams. If you're kind of a light-framed person, don't feel so strong, you just want a light racket, then maybe you go from something from 340 grams to 360 grams. Or if you're someone who's quite strong, then you can go for something above 370 grams. Note that, of course, with a lighter racket, you're going to get more vibrations and it's going to be less stable. Maybe you have the pull effect with the racket wobbles when you don't hit it in that central axis. Or with a heavier racket, maybe you're going to have some loss in maneuverability that comes with that additional power that you receive from its weight. So we'll just measure these rackets in terms of their weight. All right, so now we're gonna get into the meat of today's talk, how to choose a paddle racket with Balance-Hardness Framework. So I want you to think about a 2x2 matrix where the y-axis is balance and the x-axis is hardness. So you're gonna have low balance rackets at the bottom and high balance rackets at the top. You're gonna have soft rackets on the left and harder rackets to the right. Then we create these 4 quadrants. At the bottom, you have low balance, soft rackets, and the top right, we have high balance, hard rackets. Note that most rackets kind of fall somewhere towards the middle, but we're gonna think about these extremes in order to understand the importance of each one of these metrics most. We now plot our chart to express the performance that results from these metrics. We'll have low balance rackets being very maneuverable, high balance giving us additional power. Soft rackets, they'll be very comfortable, and hard rackets will give us additional precision and power. I, for example, have a preference for hard, medium balance rackets because it gives me the precision that I look for and enough power without feeling like I'm too late on the ball. So maybe a balance around 26 and a half centimeters. Speaking of the metrics, low balance, that's gonna be something around 24, 25 centimeters. High balance is gonna be something around 28 centimeters. Note that, of course, everything that you add to your racket, from the overgrip to the shock outs in the face to the protector, is going to affect the balance. And a lot of manufacturers indicate the balance on the racket, but I would suggest that you be very suspect of those measurements. They change a lot, and just measure them yourself. Here example, we have on Stiga's frame, indication that the balance is medium high. For the Axe 3, and for the wood edition, that it has a low balance. There we go. But when we measure the balance ourselves, you see that it's actually flipped for the models that we received. I bet you're now wondering what the balance of your racket is and what kind of balance you like to play with. Well, let's pause the video and we'll measure the balances ourselves. I'm serious. Go get your racket. We're gonna do this all together. To get as precise of a measurement as possible, I'm gonna do it with a balance beam. This one's actually made for badminton. There's other ones made for tennis, but you can just measure it as well on the side of the table. What you wanna do is put the racket with the handle edge off the side of the table. Then you wanna slowly hold the handle away from the table until the head of the racket pops up. Then you wanna note where the edge of the table is on the racket. Then you're gonna measure from that point to the end of the handle, and that's gonna be your balance measurement, usually given in centimeters. So we can think about the impact of balance on power as like holding a hammer. If I hold it from the handle, then I have high balance racket. I have a lot of weight at the tip. I'll take 1 or 2 hits and it'll go into the wall. If I flip that around, hold on to the head of the hammer, and then try to hit the nail in with the handle, it'll take me a lot of hits, despite it being really easy to maneuver, right? So this is kind of the benefits and the changes that we get from weight at the head versus at the handle of the racket. All right, so that's part 1 of our 2-step program done. The second part, hardness, is a little bit more complicated. We have some subjectivity this one. We have it being affected by humidity and temperature. And we also have, it's kind of like a mix of 2 different things. The measurement of how hard the surface is, as well as a measurement of the core, how dense of foam is used in the core of the racket. Way I like to think about it is almost like taking the surface and thinking about how hard that one is, and then taking the foam and thinking about how hard that is. And if you get a hard surface with the soft foam, maybe you have something around a medium touch. If you get a hard surface and a hard foam, then you're gonna have something like a hard touch. So let's use our Stigas in order to measure that. So we have a 3K carbon fiber, and then we also have this hyper soft core. So we have a hard carbon fiber and we have a hyper soft core. Assume that the touch is gonna be something around medium. And if I do a couple of test hits against the palm of my hand, I don't know if this will come through the microphone. It feels like something of a mix between a bass drum and a snare drum. Whereas we do that with the wood edition, which has a softer surface, but the same core. It's a bit thumpier, right? Like a bass drum. The racket's hardness correlates inversely with the ball output of the racket. If you're coming from tennis or squash like myself, we can remember the looseness of strings that beginners often like to use. It allows them to generate power, whereas control-oriented professional players might use harder strong rackets in order to be able to control their shots more because they have the strength to generate the power with their arm. Similarly, softer rackets will absorb the ball like loose strings and then bounce it back out. But you do get loss in control from that bounce effect, which responds less linearly than a harder surface would. Similarly, we usually recommend beginners to start out with softer racket, intermediate players to think about increasing the hardness of the racket if they're looking for more power or control. I notice the control most when I'm at blocks and I receive a fast bajada, often flies into the back glass if I'm using a softer racket. Of course, these recommendations are super simplified. Definitely go with your gut, see what you feel most comfortable with, and only rely on these frameworks until they are helpful for you. Last note, if you have joint issues, I highly recommend sticking with a softer racket until you're able to deal with that appropriately. We'll have another video shortly on exercises that you can do to work on the elbow strength in order to reduce tennis elbow. Similarly, we have a shoulder exercise video that I did a couple weeks ago. Might be interested in checking out. Now that we have the measurements of our Stigas, let's put them into our 2x2 matrix. So it looks like the X3 is going to be a more performance-oriented control racket, while the Wood Edition is going to be a little bit more versatile, easy to play with, intermediate-ish racket. Let's jump to the courts to see if their court tests align with what our predictions were. Timo from Padel FYI, and who is this?
Facundo here. Hi Tim, thanks for having me. So this is Facundo, I'm from Argentina. I've been playing Padel for around 3 years now. I enjoy playing on the left, and I'm happy to be here trying some new stuff out.
All right, and we got a really special treat for you guys today because we have a just recently released racket here, the X3. It's one of Stiga's performance lines. They have sandblasted finish all across it, super maneuverable, I can already tell. We're gonna do an on-court test of both this as well as that one, which is the birch form of the Wood Edition. It's a really unique look on the court. I'm sure everybody's gonna ask us what's going on with that. How does it feel on the first kind of impressions?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really played with it, so I can't tell how it plays, but definitely looks pretty cool. Feels pretty light, pretty maneuverable, so yeah, I'm excited to try it out.
All right, so we'll go over the test, and we have a little special treat for you guys in the form of a little game towards the end of the video, so stay tuned.
This racket is very light and very low balance, which means at the back of the court, I could really pick the direction where I wanted to go. I can do chiquitas, I could lower the speed or make it go faster without much issue. I can change direction quickly. When playing with it at the volley, it's very good to handle, very easy to change direction at the last minute, but the low balance means that I can't get extra power. With smashes or víboras or bandejas, it's got a good sweet spot, and hard surface makes it so that I can choose the direction of the ball easily. However, it actually seems quite low power even when hitting at the sweet spot. So I would not recommend for people that would like to smash.
If I had to choose a word for this racket, it would be agile. This racket moves really fast. Even after playing with it for multiple hours, I still arrived very early to my shots. When I first measured its balance, I assumed I had actually made a mistake because I hadn't ever seen a performance racket that had such a low balance of 24 centimeters. Moving along, the grip is very thin. I highly recommend using overgrips. We actually tried to test with as close to factory conditions as possible, but this wound up giving one of our reviewers actually some wrist pain the following day. Where this racket excels is in attacking control shots. Chiquitas will go exactly to your opponent's feet, but you may need time to adjust to its lack of weight. I struggled to keep my aerial shots, vibras and bandejas, deep as I wanted them to go. Due to its lack of weight, I felt unstable as well at the net when blocking aggressive bajadas. So if you're looking for a very agile, control-oriented racket, this one suits you quite well. If you're looking for a big smasher, take a look at one of our other rackets.
Forte.
Goes out.
Dankeschön.
It's got a nice looking wooden finish. When playing with it at the back of the court, I have relatively good control, picking the direction without much hesitation. At the net, it gives nice power and control. When playing smashes or bandejas with a good sized sweet spot, I can control it and have enough power and handling to choose the direction.
Stiga's Wood Edition really surprised me. While I expected it to feel mushy on the court, slow and soft, instead it reminded me of the AT10 12K, with a few great improvements. First, its handle is very long, and it has a slight bulge at the end which allows you to use your wrist on many shots. Secondly, the slightly above center balance gave me good leverage and power. And thirdly, the slightly softer than medium touch gave me comfort in many ways. For example, low vibrations, ease of depth in the aerial game, and also made it easy to defend with. A few things I didn't love were, for example, the padded wrist strap. I know this is a very personal thing. I prefer these simple cords, but I look forward to a time when all manufacturers offer interchangeable options because this item changed so much based on personal taste. Secondly, due to its soft touch, it of course does tend to eat the ball slightly on smashes. Where I expected this to be a lifestyle racket that wouldn't really perform to my desired level, partially because my assumptions about a racket that had this wood grain design. Instead, what I found was a versatile, comfortable racket that I think would help a lot of intermediate players improve their game. Note that you can find it for around 160 euros with our coupon, which I think puts it at a great buy.
Another golden point. Wait. Second golden point. Second golden point.
Okay, another golden point. You gotta get the fucking serve.
All right, well, let's finish strong. Here.
Okay.
Winner, you won. You won when it mattered.
I think I might have won that one, but you won everything else. So. All right, so I hope you can see now the power of this two-step framework. You have the hardness and you have the balance, and that gives you a really accurate picture of what it's like to play with this racket. So I hope you can use this on your next search to figure out what type of racket would suit you, what you like or dislike about your existing racket. As always, if you'd like any tips or would like to learn more about these rackets at Stiga, please feel free to reach out. If you think one of these would work for your game, please sign up for our giveaway by subscribing to this channel, dropping a comment, and signing up for my newsletter. I'll have the link in the description. There's a 15% discount, super generous on Stiga's rackets with Padel FYI 15. Definitely go ahead and check out Stiga's rackets, guys. They're really nice. I've been using them for the past few weeks in trainings and matches, and I really enjoy playing with them. Looking forward to seeing what you guys think about this video and content like this. As always, please feel free to share any opinions you have, good, bad, neutral. Tell me about your day. Tell me about your last match. Looking forward to continuing this journey with you guys. Thank you so much for the support.